name is Dhirendra Kumar. I'm a professor at IHMR University, Jaipur. I'm coordinating the webinar on COVID-19 pandemic consequences and challenges of reverse migration in India. Today, we have very renowned experts in the panel, Dr. Idhur Rajan and Dr. R.B. Bhagat. It is my proud privilege to introduce Professor Rajan. Professor Rajan, he is a senior professor at Center for Development Studies, Thiruvananthapuram, Kerala, CDS. He has more than 35 years of research experience. He has published extensively in national and international journals by covering many topics related to social, economic, health, and development issues. He is known for his contribution in the field of migration and especially the population aging. Professor Rajan has coordinated very prestigious large-scale survey on migration. 7 surveys, we call it, in the state Kerala, Goa, Tamil Nadu, and Punjab, and Gujarat. Now, recognizing the migration-related research done at the center, that is in CDS, Ministry of Overseas and Indian Affairs established a research unit on international migration way back in 2016, and the Professor Rajan acted as a chair professor. He has undertaken project on international migration with European Union, International Labour Organizations, World Bank, and South Asian Network Economics, Rockefeller Foundations, many international, very prestigious organizations. He is editor of the annual series of Indian Migration Report and editor-in-chief of International Journal of Migration. We are very lucky to have today in the panel. And Dr. R.B. Bhagat, he is a senior professor and head of the Department of Migration and Urban Studies at International Institute for Populations, Mumbai. His research interest includes migration and urbanizations, demography, and politics. Demographic politics. He has served as a consultant to UNESCO, UNICEF, and many international organizations, and also worked as an advisor with the Yale University on climate change and communication. Professor Bhagat has served as a member of a USP panel on demography and armed conflict way back in 2009. He organized a panel of drivers and a dynamics of migration international conference on global vision and local practices held in Stockholm University. Professor Bhagat was also invited by UN Population Division to present background paper on migration and urbanizations. He has also written several articles, research papers, and also the book. And one of the book, I think these 2 experts jointly written on migration. Now, with this background, I also like to little bit. I will not take much time between the reverse migration of workers and due to COVID-19 outbreak has a serious public health implication. We receive several questions, and probably now we are planning in a manner. First, I request the expert to speak for 10 to 15 minutes, and then both speakers, and then it will be followed by the question answer. And the issues, important issues, which are probably when the speaker speaks, they should keep in their mind. Now, these issues are very important. Now, people really want to know, especially the reverse migration, who are those people? Why this return migration? What is their size? What is the interstate migration? And then what is the social economic rehabilitation when they reach their district? And there is a lot of other policy related issues. And what we should talk about the policy reforms to take care of this migration well-being. What is the economic impact? Some people say this is going to really affect the ecosystem, including local governments and many other issues, health being and others. The people also have an impression that once these people, this migration, the reverse migration, it is very difficult when they will come back to the urban area? What is the impact on their industry, and then the supply chain? All is going to affect. I don't want to really speak a lot on that, but these are the few issues probably. So I request first our speaker. I have an honor to invite Professor Rajan first to speak for on these issues, and then the professor, followed by Professor Bhagat, and then I'll take up the question answer session. So we managed around 30 to 35 minutes for to hear from these two experts, and then we'll have the question answer. So Professor Rajan,
yeah,
are you
thanks.
there? Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thanks, Dharendra. In fact, I thought Professor Bhagat will speak first. Now, anyway, you asked me to speak first. Let me talk. Then maybe, because I don't know what Professor Bhagat is going to speak, because we have not talked together exactly what he will speak, what I will speak. There may be some repetition anyway. But let us see what we are going to do. And the repetition, of course, now I am speaking first. He can cut the repetition anyway, because, you know. I think one of the things I would like to tell probably to not just to you, not to all the participants is, India failed its own citizens. India failed its own citizens, especially the migrants. I think this is something I don't think we can forget. And it will go into the history of probably India that we failed to do something for our own citizens, especially I am talking about migrants. Now the numbers, of course, there are people talking about several numbers, but I would put probably something like today when I talk to you right now, if you take the 2001 and 11 census, the comparison, and if you talk about 2021, which is going to come in 1 year, we are likely to have something close to 500 million people who are migrants in the country. Now, 500 million people, what I mean is basically that people who are living in a place, they are not born. So we are talking with a huge number. But out of these, that means 1 out of 3 Indians are migrants. That includes me, probably Dharendra, and including Professor Bhagat. It is not everybody are migrants. I think I'm seeing 476 participants. I think most of them are migrants. So I think migration, 1 out of 3 are migrants, and out of that, at least I would put 1 out of 3 are internal, interstate migrants who went for work. So I would put probably 100 plus million people today who are working in other state, not in their state. Some people working maybe within the state, like somebody might from Maharashtra working, from Bombay working in Pune, or somebody from Pune working in Nasik, the inter-district. So inter-district and interstate migration, probably we are talking about huge number, probably something like 100 million plus. But unfortunately, they are not able to vote in the Indian elections. I think this is what the politicians have forgot about them, because even our Prime Minister Narendra Modi, during the last election, he has to go to Ahmedabad to vote his vote for the Lok Sabha. That means, though he is in Delhi, he has to come to Ahmedabad to vote. That means he has no vote in Delhi. I think this is one of the things we should emphasize, that they are not part of the political agenda of many political parties. Of course, many political parties receive funds to fight elections from the migrants and diasporas. We should not forget them. They are collecting money from them when they need. And I am glad that somebody told me in Bihar, the Bihar elections will be next time based on migration. You know, very interesting to hear that. And UP started talking about migration commission. I think this is all now, you know, something is happening around. I think one of the things COVID did, it is not migrants were not there. I think migrants were there. Their problems were there. They were not paid salaries. They were not given proper working space. They were not even given regular work. And they had all the problem. Unfortunately, COVID brought that to the limelight. So I think we have to thank COVID, because we should not only curse the COVID. I think we have to thank COVID, because COVID brought migrant to forefront. Please remember, if the COVID would not have come, I don't think we would talk about migrants. I think migrants are now in the forefront, either in the print media or in the electronic media today. Everybody talk about migration. I think everybody, I think this is something happened. Now, what happened? There are 2 points I want to talk about. Lockdown period. For example, we saw many migrants were walking from every part of the country, by walk through the road, by cycles, and walking through the railway tracks, and some of them even killed. At least 200 plus people died when they were walking, and they resupply, they died. I think we have seen really, of course, that deaths are sometimes, if you imagine, it is, we are not talking about that. So many people died. This all would have been avoided if the policymaker recognized the migration. For example, when our Prime Minister has announced what is called the Janata Curfew, on the evening of the day, he would have told the India, saying that, look, there is likely to be a lockdown. Any migrants who would like to go back to your state, because your employers will not treat you well, you want to go back, I am giving you 1 week extension. That means migrant will be exempted from the lockdown. They can go to any state. That means March 27 to April 3. They should have given a special train, special bus. They have not asked the money for them. They all got money. Because they worked the earlier day. They got money, they got savings. They would have left within 1 week, like we are giving emergency service, like the milk, like newspaper, like print media. We would have given them. We would not have seen any case what we have seen through the media. No need to walk. And please remember, many people, when I tell them, they tell me what would have happened to them. They might have carried the COVID back to villages. But please remember, we are talking about March 26, the India had COVID is only 500 plus. And please remember, in March 30, Kerala was number 1 with 224 and Maharashtra with number 2 with 210. Kerala was number 1 in March 30. Today we are seeing Maharashtra with 30,000, holding 30% of the India's COVID. Now please remember, now we are allowing them to go. Please go back to your state. Please special train. Now anybody coming from Mumbai, Delhi and any cities, we are seeing them. We are seeing them. Please remember, they are suspicion of carrying COVID today. So we have done a first mistake we have done for them. We have to allow them to go. Now because of that, they were all put the lockdown for what we call them 30, 40 days. That is where people wanted to leave. They came to street, even in Kerala. They came to street in Mumbai. They came to street in Delhi. Of course, the people were talking, it is engineered by the opposition parties. Maybe true, but I am very glad migrants could able to organize themselves. Migrants could not be part of any organization. They were not part of labor union until the COVID. So they could join together, they come to the main road. And please remember, finally, what they did, take the example of Karnataka. Karnataka Chief Minister told there will be no train from Karnataka. Because if the migrants are leaving, the reverse migration, they are leaving, who will construct the Bangalore bridge, Bangalore metros? Please remember, he said no. But the migrant came out in large number. Within 24 hours, he has to take back his statement. He said the train will go from Bangalore. This is the collective effect of migrants. That means migrants may be short run, they will lose. But the long run, they will win. And they have shown it in many cities in this country. They finally got the train. Now the reverse migration, which is going to be very important to discuss and its implications. I will take maybe another 2 to 3 minutes and I will hand over to Professor Bhagat to join. One point. Now please remember who are leaving their respective states of destinations. Who are leaving? Because who is responsible for taking care of migrants? Is it the sending state? Is it receiving states? Is it government of India? Or is it the employer who brought them? Kerala government did not bring any migrant from any state. They did not do. It's all brought by employer. But the Kerala government were feeding 500,000 people in the worker camps. I was asking the Kerala government, where were these migrants before the lockdown? They were all working. That means employers have treated them very badly. They asked them to get out of the place. And they will be getting lessons from the migrants. Please remember, I have seen in my own eyes in Kerala, the employer who were treated well in the 60 days, given them food, given them shelter, given them salary, they have not left Kerala. The migrants who want to leave are working with a bad employer. This is a time to identify bad employer and good employer. and government should intervene to the bad employer and they should lock down those industries. They should not allow the migrant to be exploited like a bonded laborer. Even bonded laborer probably got more freedom. They can at least move. These people were allowed to leave the place. They were not paid salaries. What are we talking about in this country in this time? So they left. Now they are begging. When they will come? When they will come? Why should they come? If you treat the migrant like that, why should they come back to you? They will not come back. My prediction is at least 30% of the migrants will not come back. But please remember, you cannot imagine Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai without migration, without migrant. Even I cannot imagine Kerala state without a migration. So Kerala treated migrants very well. That's why Kerala, they are not leaving. Minimum left will be 10 to 15%. They want to go see their family and come back. But the people who were treated badly by the employer will be identified and they will not come back. If you want them to come back, there is only one solution. One solution, all of them will return back. Only one solution. Please pay them salaries for the last 2 months. The employer who has not paid salary, at least 25,000 rupees in their account. Sorry, they should tell the migrant, I am sorry. I asked you to leave my workplace. I asked to leave my construction site. I am sorry for that. I am paying you 2 months salary, which is equivalent to 25,000 rupees. I am giving you 3 months advance salary for you. Put them 50,000 rupees in the migrant's account. They will come. UPCM cannot stop them because UPCM that he has to ask the permission from the UP government. They will run. They will run. I think migrant will get a great opportunity. I think we should talk to people to see that they are given emergency relief. Even the 20 lakh crores announced by the central government, there is nothing for emergency for migrants. Nothing. They said we'll give some food. They have not come here to food. Migrants go there to earn money, send back home. Not just giving them food. Sorry, no, they have not come to eat food. I'll stop here. Thank you very much, Dhirendra.
Thank you, Professor Rajan. I think is a very, very innovative. And then you spoke from your heart, the issues. Now I invite Professor Bhagat.
Thank you, Professor Dhirendra Kumar, for inviting me and organizing this symposium. I'm happy to join Professor Irdarajan, who is my senior colleague and spoken quite a lot of things. Some of the things I will add in addition to that. This is where what we are seeing is unprecedented in India's history. The return migration from cities of India, particularly big cities of India. We find some parallel in the partition time, when about 15 million people migrated across the border. Now this time, this return or reverse migration is more than 15 million. It may be something 20 to 25 million people. So the question is, although the migrants constitute about 37%, and as Professor Rajan said, about 500 million people, but then many are included in the city. So migration is not a monolithic group. They are divided in caste, ethnic, age, income, gender on various lines. And some are very, very vulnerable. So who are the people vulnerable and who return? That is something like 25 to 30 million, maybe something more. Now government is coming out with the figure. UP government is saying something 3 million people have already returned. Bihar government is saying something 2 million people have returned. So there are many people who are likely to return. So there will be huge numbers will come out later on from government portals or from government sources. So who are the people who are returning? So if you see, we have some data on 2007, 2008, 64th round, and in normal circumstances also people return. And these people who are returning in normal times were very poor people, scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, And then in permanent, semi-permanent migration, those who are aged people, 55 plus, along with this seasonal temporary migrant. Seasonal temporary migrant keep on returning, sometime during the time of festival, sometime at the time of sowing and doing agricultural operations after May, in the month of June, and then they will also like to go to their homes during the time of festival. So that was the pattern. But what is happening in this COVID situation? There is a massive return migration, and also those who are semi-permanent, permanent people, they are returning. Now, people are returning by various modes. Some are returning by private vehicles, some are returning by train, but the most horrible is returning by foot, walking. So who are the people who are walking? So let me tell you, I made some survey, some asks around Mumbai, that who are returning and in which mode people are returning. So it is migrants are big chunk in the informal sector, you know. Our workforce, 90% of our workforce is in the informal sector. Only 10% are in the formal sector. Out of this 90% informal sector, migrants constitute something 35, 40%. Now, all those migrants were returning, those who were returning by foot, by walking, they were basically what we are listening in our electronic media and print media, dehadi worker. Dehadi worker means daily wage worker. These are the people, they are not the security guards. Security guards in Mumbai are better, or in Bangalore better. They are not the drivers. They are not the auto drivers. They are the person who are working on daily wages basis. And what they were earning, NSSO data shows they are earning just 300 to 400 rupees per day. So it is less than 10,000 rupees. These are the hardy workers. They are daily wage worker. They are casual workers. And they are the people who are returning by foot. And if you see the migrant worker, if entire migrant worker, these dehadi workers constitute 30% of the entire migrant workforce. So you can see the composition of migration, migrant workers, and among them, they are the most, who are the most vulnerable, who has to walk by foot. Now what is happening? See, all of them are part of the mega city, big city. But in our urban policy and programs, we have never included migrants and migration. This is very unfortunate thing. We have never included in our urban policies and programs migrant or migration. At the most, we have included that yes, there will be Manrega and it will discourage rural to urban migration. But what happened to migrants who are coming to the urban area? Are they included in urban policy in the program? I don't find in any document that migrants are included in the urban policies and programs. Now, they are doing the most difficult job, 3D jobs. That is dangerous, demeaning, and difficult. These are done by migrant labor. And at the same time, they are unwanted, they are excluded, and they are demonized by our system. So they are unwanted. If you see urbanization, migrants are creating problem, environmental degradation, crime in urban area, pressure on infrastructure. Who is doing? Migrants are doing. So they are unwanted. They are excluded. There are numerous examples of exclusion. And of course, there was a working group on migration, which submitted the report in 2017. And they realized this thing and recommended to the government, but still that report is lying. So exclusion, now we see the talk about that there will be ration card, the ration card will be portable, and a person can get ration anywhere in India based on that ration card. This was not the practice till now. ration card is held by the people at the place of origin. And if you want to transfer, then it is a long process. Transfer means you have to show residential proof, you have to show identity proof, you have to transfer it to place of destination. It is not possible for the seasonal, temporary, circular migrants to get it done. So they were deprived of. So there are instances in housing, education of the children, lot of exclusion. And as Professor Rajan rightly said, that they are not the vote bank. See, sometimes we confuse that slum dwellers are migrants. Yes, part of the migrants live in slum, but all slum dwellers are not migrants. Slum dwellers are a vote bank, but migrants are not a vote bank, because it is not clear where they belong. As Professor Rajan has already said, they belong to area of destination or they belong to area of origin. And then if their names are there in voter list, they have to go back to the respective places to vote at the time of election. But many don't have name in the voter list also. So they don't have that type of vote bank or political inclusion. So there are a lot of exclusions. You have social exclusions, you have economic exclusion, labor market exclusions, and then political exclusion. So I was making the point, they are unwanted, they are creating problems, then they are excluded, and then they are demonized. Now you see, everybody is saying, most of the people are saying the migrants can carry the disease. So what is the proof that migrants can carry the disease to the rural area, COVID-19? Yes, few migrants are, when they are tested, they are getting positive. It doesn't mean that they are carrying, they are victims. And suppose they would have lived in urban area, they would not have gone. Whether they would not have catched the disease. So this way, earlier we have also seen in the time of epidemics or in the context of contagious diseases, HIV/AIDS, the migration was condemned, migrants were condemned. We are demonizing. So these all process unwanted, excluded, and then demonization going, we must get rid of. We see the migrants, and ultimately, who builds the city? It is the migrant by doing 3D works. So they should not be called even migrant, they are city makers. And that is the respectable term we should give to them. Now, the question is that they are not part of the urban policy and program. Why? This is some sort of our academic failure, academic understanding also. There are a group of people who are dominating the policy and policy making of this country. They say that yes, poor people, poor can subsume migrants. Informal sector can subsume migrant. So there is no need of separate category of migrant. So, but are the poverty alleviation program reaching to the migrants? Since they are not included part of the urban society, they are not able to take the benefit of our poverty alleviation programs. Similarly, informal sector, unorganized sector programs also, there are many who are not able to take advantage of these programs because of their migration status, because they lack inclusion in the urban society, they lack residential and identity proof. See, so, and some of the specific laws and some of the specific legislations meant for certain categories of workers are also not helpful. So I can give the example of Building and Other Construction Workers Act. Building and Other Construction Workers Act. Under this act, there is a Building and Other Construction Welfare Boards have been created. And these boards are very rich in terms of money because they take cess from each and every building that is constructed. And this cess should have gone to the migrant worker, to the construction worker, and most of the construction workers are migrant workers. But there is no word migrant worker. There is a construction worker. But these construction workers are not registered. They are not recognized as migrant worker. The money is lying unused. Now government, some of the state governments are using that money. There are huge money, maybe even 1 lakh crore in the tune of 1 lakh crore. That money is there. In Bihar, a poor state of Bihar, when I visited few months back, I was reported that 18,000 crore Bihar having this money. In Andaman Nicobar Islands, 1,800 crore rupees are there in this building and other construction workers welfare board. So this we have such, so very important that we must recognize the identity of migration, like identity of poor BPL, like identity of SC, ST. We should have recognized migrants' identity. They do not belong to the state, they belong to somewhere. Because of spatial dislocation, they are in disadvantage. So I will take 2-3 minutes and end it. So now people are returning. What is going to happen? What are the consequences? So already you see the people returning to the states which are poor states. So UP, Bihar, what is going to happen to food and nutritional security? Migrants were sending remittances, and that remittances was used for food, nutrition, education of the children, care of the parents, aged parents, and also in agriculture and certain productive activity. Now we are going to lose that remittances. In addition to that, there will be return migrant in the rural area of these poorer states. So there is a issue of job, employment opportunity. There will be much more demand for Narega work, but what that Narega work is going to give them? If everybody gets 30 days employment, then it is 6,000 rupees only. So there will be huge demand and all these things. And those who are returning are most of them from lower caste, scheduled tribe. It can now create different types of social situation in the villages. It can strengthen caste prejudices. We are going back to our social system where migration provided some opportunity of liberation from caste system. Now the caste prejudices, caste hierarchy, caste inequality will be likely to be strengthened. And this has implication for women's empowerment. Now, whether they are going to return or not. Now, many of them may return because the income opportunity in rural area is very low. Manrega is not so effective. And even if full-time job is given under Manrega, they are going to earn 6,000 rupees. So many of them will return, but it will take some time to get over their shocks. But if the state is putting certain restrictions, as we have seen yesterday, that UP government has announced that if somebody wants to leave the state or those who want to employ labor from government, from UP, they have to take permission. Now this can lead to trafficking. Now we have heard trafficking at the international level, labor trafficking, migrant trafficking. Now this can be issue in future. A lot of trafficking can, organized trafficking can happen. On the other hand, in urban areas, since they are unwanted, they are creating a lot of automation will they. So 20 lakh crore money given to the farms, MSME and big companies, there will be a lot of automation. No need of migrant labor. This may something happen. What is going to happen in the long run? Inequality is going to increase. Our conditions, we are going to be worse because migration provided a lot of opportunity for development of both the place of destination and both place of origin. So what should be done? It is not that only household approach or beneficiary approach can help, but we have to integrate the migration issue in the rural development. So we have concept like Urban Mission or Pura. So this Pura and Urban Mission should be integrated with MSME. Now we have MSME who have been given 3 lakh crore rupees by the government in terms of loan, but most of the MSME are in the urban area, not in the rural area. If the MSME is not coming in rural area, But MSME can come in the rural area only when we have connectivity, we have infrastructure provided through urban facilities or pura facilities. So we need to see some complexes, urban, rural complexes, township, village complexes, and develop the area. Planning should be introduced. We don't have planning. Manrega even is not done based on rural planning. Manrega is done, all of a sudden money is coming and something is decided to dig out here and then dig out there, something like that. So the asset formation is very low. So we need to have something planning for integrated rural development so that these people can be integrated into the rural society and rural development. In the meantime, I think it is very necessary that they should be protected. Out of 20 lakh crore grant or the support that is announced by the central government, migrant workers have very little things to gain. In fact, all migrant workers should be given 6,000 rupees per month. Why I am saying 6,000 rupees per month? Because 202 rupees per day under Manrega, this is around 6,000 rupees. 6,000 rupees per migrant worker should be given till the time they are getting employed somewhere, either at the place of origin or at the place of destination. This type of monetary support is very, very important, but because this can generate demand. Now, whole government policy is supply driven. But when there is a supply of goods and services, who is going to demand? Who is going to purchase if there is no purchasing power? So this support, cash support to the migrant worker at the rate of 6,000 rupees per month till they get job, I think is very, very important in addition to support of food grain or other support that they are receiving. At the end, I would like to say that it is high time that we recognize, as Professor Rajan has said, that migration is closely linked with development process. We should not exclude them, we should include them, and this could be included by disaggregated, decentralized, and participatory planning. Disaggregated, one size fits all. We have a tendency, one size fits all. Something announced from center and it will be applicable equally for Rajasthan, Bihar, and Kerala. One size fits all. Lockdown, everywhere lockdown. No, this is something we have to see disaggregated manner, this decentralized manner. In this lockdown, some of the Panchayati Raj institutions, particularly Kerala, in Goa, and some places, they have done fantastic work. So decentralization process is the need of the hour. And then participatory planning. What is the opportunity in local area? How agro-processing industries can be started through Pura or urban missions, integrating MSME. I think this type of holistic integrated view is required for our help for the migrants and building our society and promoting development process in the country. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Bhagat. I think you have given a very nice elaborative talk covering the very basic issues related to the migrant workers and the statistics, which is clearly said that, as Professor Rajan also mentioned, that every 1/3 in this population are migrant, and then you are going very. Now we have some more than 550 participants and attendants. I have also received some questions. So I'll try to pick up questions and then please answer, and then who will answer, it depends, both of you decide, because who is. So we have some specific question from Professor A.G. Khan.
Some problem.
Well-being.
Not audible.
Is now audible?
Yes, sir. This is audible. This is audible.
Oh.
Yes.
So,
Yeah,
so
I
he has a
have
very
not heard anything
specific.
anyway.
You didn't hear?
Yeah,
That's
I
okay.
didn't, yeah, now I can hear. Yeah.
I think I have to come closer to the camera. So his specific question is that do we really need to have some policy to keep a balance between supply chain when and how this reverse migration to again to the urban area, those people have last come, and partly the professor hasn't mentioned. And the second thing is that even when they come back to urban area, then there has to be some policy, some program to take care of their health and well-being. These are two specific questions he has raised. So would you like to answer right now, or should I read some other question? So two specific question. Do we really need a policy intervention to bring back these people to urban area, or the kind of policy change going in state-wise like in UP will affect, and then how we should take care of their health and other well-being in the employer side? These are two very specific questions. Very good question from Dr. Khan.
Can I say a few things? Because
Yeah.
Dhirendra, we are already 4:40, so we have only 20 minutes to wind up the program.
Right.
So what we can do, I can answer, maybe 3 minutes maybe. Then you can give some question to Professor Bhagat. Then we can have one more round.
Okay.
And then, because 5 o'clock we should close. Then only, people will, So 2 points I want to make. I think whatever policy we had, Interstate Migration Act, whatever you had about that, this act is basically like a tiger without a teeth. It's a tiger without a teeth. So everybody is playing with that. If you know the tiger has a teeth, nobody will go near to the tiger. So this is what happened to the migrants today. So I think policies is not going to protect them because they are all short-term, seasonal. It's like you can't put them in a policy. I think what we have to do is that we have to teach our employers, because it is the employers who need them. I think we should, like some type of, I think this is what the COVID is doing now. I think COVID is doing something in a correcting the balance. Now we know that how the employers are treating their migrants. So I think we should, like Bhagat said about the welfare fund board, we should give them something, because what is the policy? I saw some question even from the people about the 20 lakh crore. Is anything going to the migrants? Because one nation, one ration card, it's a long-term policy. Narega, additional money, a long-term policy. And then you are talking about housing for the migrants, it's a long-term policy. Only short-term, you see some food grains, 5 kg rice. Otherwise, what do you have for migrants? And please remember, this is the first time. This is the first time in the migration history of India. Migrants are going back with empty hands. I told in many meetings now, because empty hands. Never migrants go back to their house with just walking around. Now they have nothing. All their savings are gone. They are come to empty hand. Along with that, there is also a stigma. They are coming from COVID places. So they have double stigma. And I don't want the country to see, we used to talk about farmer suicides. Now I think probably we have to talk about migrant suicide. Returned migrant probably will commit suicide because there will be a lot of psychological stress, because he has been quarantined, he has been put 14 days, and he has been, 60, almost 2 months. They are like almost like a psychological stress. I saw, we are talking about even people who are educated, they are committing suicide. So I think they are going to have psychologically depressed, and they are economically depressed because they have no money. And the rural economy is going to be that, what we are going to witness here, very deep depression going to happen in the rural areas. So unless you do something to very seriously with an emergency of providing them some cash transfer, they are going to be having a tough time, at least for 6 months. Only 2021 will open them something new. They may have to come back because nothing is available there, but they will not come back because their employer, how they were treated. They were not given money to go back, or they were not allowed them to stay in their household, in their industry during the lockdown. So I think we have more questions than answers. I don't think we can answer them because migrants and migration will continue the debate, and we have to bring them to the political circle to them. Election manifesto should talk about migration. Election manifesto. Which election manifesto talks about migration? You have election comes every few years. Just I heard from Bihar that next election will be bought on migration. That's good. So I think we should talk more on that, and I will leave it at this point. Maybe leave it to a few questions, and maybe Bhagat can pick it up. Then I'll come back one more time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
One thing I like to add, this health facility, that we have to strengthen public health facility in the urban area, in rural area, because public health facility is inclusive. And one should ask the question under Ayushman Bharat, that if Ayushman Bharat is covering 10 crore families, 50 crore population of this country, how many are from migrant families? Are the migrant included in Ayushman Bharat? So these are, I think, there are extreme exclusions because they don't have identity or residential proof. You are not urban citizen. If you are not, you are citizens of this country, but you are not urban citizen. So formal citizen does not guarantee access to urban services like health facility, housing. Now government has come out with rental housing. This is a very good thing, but this should have been done long back. Rental housing, they did not have to buy a house in Mumbai, and it is not possible for them to buy, but they can pay 100 or 200 rupees and live in a reasonable rental housing. So these things are to be done to improve the future inclusion of migration. It will raise productivity, and India can be made superpower, economic superpower. Without including migrants, we cannot reap demographic dividends. How can we reap demographic dividends? Our demographic dividends are in rural area, rural youth. And unless those rural youths get included in urban society through urban policy and economic social policy, I think these are larger issues. And then, as Professor Rajan has said, employer at a local level, some immediate things is that employer, contractor, they should, or civil society even, can pitch in to do something for the migrant. Civil society is highly profitable. They look for, now the charitable era has gone. But anyhow, something should be modeled, something should be thought of where migrant can be included, and civil society can also help through local governance, through local municipal bodies. So these are multi-pronged integrated approach, but we must realize that they are wanted in the city. They are building the city. That is not there. They are unwanted. If they have gone, fine. Some of them can think like that. But supply chain is getting affected. That is also true. And we are seriously seeing the problems in the city. Supply chain is completely broken down.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of questions because many questions are there, some of them suggestion. And Professor CSN Raju also mentioned, I think both of you have already answered. He was just a pull factor for reverse migration in height of COVID. I think you already spoken. And he's asking the question, what are the measures to help weak bargaining power of migrant laborers as per the act? And then Professor Rajan recently said that act alone cannot help. So I'm just picking up some prominent question, although all questions is very important for us. Now, another question is coming up very big. I think probably you need to touch it. And this is asked by one of the participants. What will be the impact of increasing unemployment rate due to the COVID-19 in economy? And especially they're talking about the young graduate and what is going to happen with that when this is. So something they want to listen that is how is going to affect the employment.
So unemployment is going to be a...
And another question is related to lockdown. I think both of you already that the lockdown was not very well thought of idea. It was in a hurry. And they say this, and still lockdown is there. And now lockdown is kind of every state is interpreting and then implementing the way they want. It is not a kind of a unique kind of that kind of things. These are the all, I think people are appreciating. That is a very good, and then they got a lot of informations. And now one question is coming from the Professor Brajesh Kumar. He's from, is it any methodology or measure is available to measure exactly the reverse migration? Because right now we get the data, which is have the different sources, not reliable. And then also although you have explained in your presentation, still they want to measure the plight and the problem and for these reverse migration people.
Yeah.
As you mentioned the partition. That's
Dhirendra?
Yeah.
Yes. I think we will answer, I will answer 3-4 minutes and then I will leave to Professor Bhagat. I think 2 points I would like to mention. One is about the employment. I think even pre-COVID, India had unemployment crisis. I think we were talking about even releasing the data on employment. There were a lot of issues. So unemployment will continue and it will be going to be a very, 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 very important thing is going to happen. But the problem is now they are going back to rural area. You know, please remember, you cannot read the current reverse migration by the train, by walk is something the final. What you have seen now through the special train or by walk or walking the thing, this is all panic migration, panic return. I was telling to somebody, this is only trial for the movie. Movie has not come. If you want to see the full movie of return migration, you have to wait. The train should flow as it is. It is not still flowing. So what we have seen reverse migration is only a teaser for a movie. The movie you have to wait. Maybe June, July, August, because movie is just a thing. And the second point is that this panic migration is happening not only internal, panic is happening even international migration. Because you know that COVID fear, people want to go back and die in their own village with their own friends.
We lost connection. Not able to hear.
Coming? Okay.
Yeah.
Hello?
I think he lost the connection.
Lost the connection?
Some connection is lost.
Okay, no problem.
Can I say something?
Yes, yes, please, please.
So this unemployment is likely to increase, and this will be burden in rural area, despite of the fact that there is some skill gain or some brain gain. See, all those who are returning to rural areas, they have certain types of skills. But are we going to able to use that skill? In the long run, they are going to be de-skilled because this is going to happen. And now the question regarding unemployment, how many reverse migration, how to measure reverse migration, etc., etc. There is a not only neglect of migration in policy making, but there is a neglect of generating data for migration. Professor Rajan has been trying to do some all India survey on migration. He has done 8 Kerala migration survey. State specific surveys are for some of the states it is available, but at a national level we don't have. 2011 data is very old, and still the tables on industrial classification and occupational division has not been published from 2011 data for migration. So data visibility, statistical exclusion is rampant so far the migration is concerned. We have to include migration into our statistical system, and that is consistent with Sustainable Development Goal. In Sustainable Development Goal says, one of the goal 17, that we must have disaggregated data by age, sex, gender, ethnicity, and migratory status. That is first time it is said in this document, Sustainable Development, agreed by the nation. Now, measuring of the reverse migration or return migration, we have a question in 16 64th round migration survey, that part of the employment unemployment survey, there was a question to measure return migration. What was the question? That whether your current place was any time your usual place of last residence. This was the question. If your current place is any time usual place of last residence, you are a return migrant. So on the basis of that, we have estimated that in normal times, there are 10% return migrants. And there are 30% return emigrants. So anytime in Kerala or any state, you will find if 3 persons are migrating, 1 person is returning. So this is some data, but that data is very old, 2007, 2008. So this is statistical inclusion is also very, very important. We should see our data system should include migration. Now this is high time. So that's all.
Yeah, there are.
Dharendra, can I say one word?
Yes, yes, please, please.
Yeah, because I saw some question about this 20 lakh crore. Please remember 20 lakh crore, not even that 5 days our finance minister spoke about so many things they talk about, privatization of the airport, so many things. But not even a single word talked about return migration rehabilitation from the Gulf. Last year, India received $84 billion, #1 in the world globally. And you are not talking about return migration who is going to happen. India will receive 10 to 15 lakh return migration from the Gulf alone. We have 100 lakhs people are in the Gulf. 10 to 15% will come back based on our experience in Kerala. And you will have 15 lakhs. That means 15 lakhs people will come back from outside the country. And then the cities are going back to villages. So you are going to have a lot of things, but nothing being discussed in the package. I'm going to stop here because we are running out of time. I'm going to stop here. Thank you, Dharendra, very much for organizing this. And I think I'm seeing at least 500 plus participants are there. Please share our email with them. If there's somebody we could not answer them, I'm seeing some of the messages.
We will.
They want to write to us, and definitely they can write to us. And of course, whatever I spoke is available in different forums, articles, interviews are already available. Thank you, Dharendra, for everything what you did.
Thank you very much, Professor Rajan, for sparing time. I think your talk was very interesting and very valuable information. We will be in touch, and I have a plan for coming out the sort of a policy brief for this, for the benefit of all. So I'm going to add all question answer important in your talk. We are recording it. So surely I think we are going to come out with.
One last point, Dharendra, I want to make.
Yes.
That is the point. This is a point very important for future of this country, for poverty alleviation program or some protection of the migrant. It's a general comment. Now it is high time we should come out the idea of poverty. We must abandon the concept of poverty, and we must ensure the minimum universal income. What earlier advisor to the Prime Minister, Arvind Subramaniam, has coined this thing, that some universal basic income. Every adult person, whether a student, unemployed, migrant, some basic income should be there, 6,000 or 7,000. And this poverty alleviation program should be abandoned. I think that can generate demand, and it can boost up economy. So we have to think a long-term and very strong social security program. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Do you have some more time? 5 minutes. I can pick up a few questions.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, one of the questions is this is repeated by. Now the people are asking. Now these people, the reverse migration going to the rural area, and it has been reported in media also. There might be some infected, and they're quite in case of Chhattisgarh. They say that 80% the migrant returned from Mumbai are infected. Now, what is the implication in the rural area when the health facility is not there, resources are there? How the shape is going to take in terms of COVID-19 further infection in the light of this reverse migration? Would you like to speak something on that?
Yes. This is, I think, yes, this is true. Some infection has reached the rural area because quarantine facility, testing facility, these are not available. And then people got down from the train in between, they did not reach in a proper way. So some infection will be there, some rise will be there. But see, situation in slum is much worse. The way things are spreading in slums in Mumbai or anywhere, because you have very high density, you cannot live, maintain social distancing. But in rural area, this is possible. Once it is known that somebody is infected, the isolation is possible in rural area. So the Panchayati Raj system, the health facility, government machinery has to be active. And spread can be controlled. There is not much threat. There is a high level of threat in slum. Because here slum, people are sharing the toilets. People are sharing water. Everything is shared. There is one room, 10 persons are living. This is not there in rural area. Rural area, people have enough space going outside, so many things, social distancing is possible. So one should be active. There is a possibility of infection, but it can be controlled. So that is my.
I think I think there is a point what you said, that the still situation will be better than the slums in rural area. I think I have covered most of the questions. Because list is very long, and the time is they have given the kind of suggestions, congratulations, they've appreciated, and then the question which they raised, probably both of you have already covered. So this is what, so today's discussion and then the speech, it is very well appreciated, and then I'm very thankful for both of you. And with a very short span of time, I just a week before only I discussed with you and you agreed. So this is a very good piece of information for the consumption of the community and the student, and then all the people, important people of this society. So I think I would like to close because we have to stick our time. So thank you very much, Professor Rajan.
Thank you, Professor Dhirendra.